¿Qué huele, raza? Welcome back to the channel. So as you saw from the title probably, we have a new build. I want to introduce you guys to this. This thing is sick, man. It's a 79 Bronco and started out as pretty much a frame off restoration. It's my dad's. So just so you guys know, I'm be working on it a lot though. So started off as pretty much a frame off restoration. I convinced my dad to buy a Coyote for it, and he actually ended up finding an entire F-150. It was a 4-door, it was wrecked, and basically instead of putting the Bronco back on the factory chassis, we decided we're gonna put the Bronco on the F-150 chassis, and then the Coyote and all that's in there, drivetrain and everything. So let me show you what we got going on here. All right, fellas, so I got the Bronco lifted up. Let me show you what is going on right now. So first things first, we had to cut this chassis, right? And to cut it, I essentially cut it straight here, and then I cleared out everything inside this sleeve, cut 25 inches off, and then slid it forward. So it's almost like this thing was meant to be cut, right? And I believe it's like that because what Ford does is they have a section that they use from here to here for every truck, and a section that they use from there to there for every truck, depending if it's a crew cab, 4-door, a single cab, a long bed, whatever. The only thing that changes is that section in the middle. Those two stay the same, so that's why it was so easy to shorten this frame. Now, after the frame was shortened, we go over here, and the F-150 frame had a very gradual turn. It was like a very long ramp, and if we look at the Bronco, it's got a quick ramp right here. It just goes up quick. So I had to cut the frame to match that. So that's what I'm doing now. You can see on that side how I used. So this is the same piece of frame I cut out. We've just been bending it with a torch and shaping it to this new frame. That way, you know, once it's all done and set on there, it's gonna look like nothing ever happened. Once that's completely welded, it's just strongly tacked right now, but once that's completely welded, it's gonna look like nothing ever happened. But let me show y'all how I did all this stuff. I'll put you guys on time lapse. Okie dokie. So I don't know if I've shown how this thing fits on the frame, but check me out, y'all. Look at this. Huh, I don't know if I like that actually. This is a little bit tighter, I guess, than I was expecting. It's a little bit tighter fit, but that's why it's only tacked right now. I can always, you know, push this down if I need to, but this is pretty much what I did when I was shaping the frame right there. I made it match the Bronco. See how nice that looks. You know, once it's all ground down and flushed out, it's gonna look like nothing ever happened. But now I'm thinking if I need to lower this cut just a hair more. It's gonna suck if I do. But anyways, that's not really what I'm concerned about right now. That's kind of more finish work stuff. My dad really wants to see this thing roll on its own, and I don't blame him. I'm kind of getting to the point where I want to see it roll on its own too, because it's kind of immobile right now. Not that it has to go anywhere yet, but that's kind of the next step in this project. So what I'm gonna do is I need to find the center of this wheel well. That way we know where the wheel is gonna go in relation to the chassis. Once I find the center of that, then I can actually set the leaf springs in where they need to go. So let's do that real quick. Shout out J Pandas for this sick little laser here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I took a bunch of measurements, and this is me staring at the truck and finally realizing this shit ain't square. Now, why isn't it square, Hector? It's because you cut the goddamn chassis down the middle and tried to glue the back together. Now, thankfully, at this point, nothing is fully welded, bringing us to the lesson of the day. Don't ever put a tack where you can't cut that shit out, because chances are if you tacked it, you're gonna have to cut it. So I proceed to cut my tacks and straighten this chassis because we ain't building no bullshit around here. Now, what I think went wrong is I measured from the transmission cross member on the truck to another cross member back on the chassis. Now, these cross members, if you look at them, I'll put an arrow for one. They don't really have a squared off edge. They're kind of rounded, even though it's like square tube, you know, it's got that rounded edge on it. And I think that's where I lost my 1/4 inch. You know, when I measured them cross member to cross member on both sides, it was square, but obviously, you know, you start measuring to the back of the chassis, you're nowhere near square. So what I ended up doing was I took 2 of the stamped holes in the chassis, one on the front section, one on the back section, made sure they're identical on the driver's side and on the passenger side, and I squared off of those. There was honestly only about 10 inches between both of them. I made them perfect on the spot. Now the chassis square, and I confirmed, you know, I took measurements all the way back, took cross measurements. I'm probably within like 3/16 on the cross measurement, which is way within tolerance. You know, we're within a 16th if you measure on each side. So now this chassis square, and we're ready to put leaf springs in it. So right under this. You help me do these last time?
Yeah.
So you know the deal.
Right there.
Okie dokie. So our laser is shot directly down the middle. You can't see it, but there's a mark there. A mark there. You guys saw how I found center. I took pretty much 3 points on the chassis, measured between the two, dropped it with a plumb bob. Then you find the center. Up front, the best place to do that is off of control arm bolts. Those are usually symmetrical. Back here, you kind of just got to find 2 spots that you like that look symmetrical, and you find center. Now, after I found center, then I was able to measure from these leaf springs like that. Our laser lands at 21.5, does it up. So, you know, you check your measurement at the back and you check your measurement at the front. And if it's even 21.5 at the front from here to the laser, back here, that means the leaf spring runs straight. All right, let me explain how this is gonna work and how we're gonna mount this leaf spring here. So these brackets are from a company by the name of DIY Off-Road, and actually all I bought from them was the file. I then took it to a local CNC place and they cut all the pieces out for me, and then I stuck them together. Now, this leaf spring mount is originally supposed to go on the side of a frame like this, but that's not going to work for our application. So to modify it, I just have to cut it. That way it can mount under the chassis instead of on the side. All right, so this is what we're looking like. That's the front leaf spring mount that I modified. So it has basically just little ears that come up around this side, and it'll be welded all the way around. Right now I just got pretty much a rough fit up. We measured 21.5 from this side of the leaf spring on the inside to our center line. Same thing up here, 21.5. So that means that our leaf spring travels directly straight. So pretty much now what's left to do is actually weld these brackets out completely. We have the back one there. That one's same thing. I got it from the same company and everything. Really nice pieces. And this one, weld it completely out. Once they're welded out completely, all 4 of them, then I'll actually mount the leaf springs on them. And what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tack them on, fit the diff, and then sit it down and see what's gonna happen, you know, before I weld them on completely. But for now, I'm gonna get to welding all these guys out. Okay, so I'm getting ready to weld this guy out, but check this out, fellas. I put a piece of tube in here where the leaf spring goes, and this actually comes in the instructions whenever you buy all this stuff to cut out. It tells you to put a spacer in here, bolt it down tight to accumulate for any shrinkage. So pretty much, you know, when we weld this thing, we're gonna get it super hot, and the last thing we need is for this to close up, and then now our leaf spring doesn't fit. So to avoid that, we have this tube here. I cut mine like an 1/8 big, just in case. I'm afraid to ruin it. I still feel like I can still move. Metal moves a lot, especially with a ton of heat. So we're gonna weld it slowly because there's a ton of welds to be made, but we'll get it all done and then weld the other one, then the other one, and the other one. All right, fellas, so this is what we got going on here. I cut all of these off like you saw, welded them all up. So all of my brackets, they're fully welded. You guys saw my rough fit up of all of this, and I pretty much liked it. The only thing is, I think these back brackets, I'm pushing everything forward just a hair. All the trucks I've seen, I don't know everything about leaf springs. I've just been going off of what I've seen of all the trucks we have here in the yard. And this is pretty much always directly above that bolt. And that's how it landed. It was just leaned a hair forward. And I thought it was fine just because I'm assuming when the weight gets put on it, you know, it's going to get pushed out a little bit. So I'm going to still move this bracket forward a hair, probably like a 1/4 inch or something. I'll do that on both sides just so it's not leaned as far as it was. Other than that, everything is going to be pushed forward just a hair. Then I'm going to weld them in, and I'm not going to weld them in completely. I'm just going to tack them kind of more than just a few tacks, just to a point where I think that it'll hold weight, because, you know, I still don't know what's going to happen whenever we put weight on this truck. But I'm going to tack them to a point where I could slide the diff in there and start checking out where all the perches are going to go. So let's get that taken care of. All right, fellas, right about now, you should go down, hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this build. I'm out of time for today. Enjoy the time lapse. Thank you all for watching. Se la lavan, perritos.